Hi, welcome to our webinar at Extended DIS. Today we're going to be talking about Extended DIS National Stress Indicators, employee stress levels around the world. So you hear us talking a lot about our Extended DIS profiles and how they help us to identify our natural behavioral styles, right? Especially if you've gone through any of our trainings. But our Extended DIS profiles can actually be useful in many other ways. If you've joined our webinars in the past, you've heard us talk about the extended DISC profiles being used to identify key emotions and how can we look at profile results to get insight into what underlying feelings a person may feel when they took the actual assessment. And of course, you'll find the key emotion webinar recording on our YouTube channel or under our webinar section in the extendeddisc.org website. But today, we're actually going to be talking about profile results and how to use it to look at global stress trends. So before we go into the actual scoring, the national stress trends, of course, we need to talk about how we define stress. So we all have different ways of describing stress. Some of us only see stress as negative, while some of us see it as having positive aspects. For example, many of us thrive with certain levels of stress, meaning we use it to motivate us and to spur us on to get things done, right? And that's just one example. Our extended DISC behavioral assessments, remember, are behavioral assessments. We look at behaviors because they are part of us and we can make adjustments to our behaviors, whereas there's other aspects to who we are that are difficult to change. So today we're going to give you the behavioral definition of stress, and we define it, as you can see here, an external pressure a person feels that forces them away or outside of their comfort zone, meaning comfort zone as how we prefer to do things. And it causes the person to adjust their style to the demands of their current environment. So what is the National Stress Indicator and how does it help us look at global stress trends? So let me give you a definition of what it is first. So number one, it is unique to the extended DISC tool. And I'm also going to call it NSI for short, just so I don't have to say the whole thing every time. And it's designed to look at global populations' cumulative stress indices by measuring the amount of negative stress pressure that that group feels they are facing. It's also important to recognize what it does not measure. So it does not measure stress that the person feels they are in control over and they accept it. This data is designed to be used to benefit not only individuals and groups, but countries as well by being able to look at stress levels from a kind of a high level perspective. So just a quick broad overview of how we actually calculate this National Stress Indicator, or NSI. We're looking at all the anonymous profile results of our extended DISC users. Specifically, we are looking at indicators that we have identified where we can assign a score. So if you remember when we talk about our profiles, profile 2 is your natural behavioral style, which we define as your most natural behavioral preferences. How do you prefer to go about the day without external pressure? Whereas profile 1, your perceived need to adjust, is how you feel you need to adjust in response to the pressures you feel in your current environment. And what we do is we compile these scores or these data points in groupings so that we can view as a country. The sample size that we use is what we feel a well-balanced representation of the average working adult population for each country. And really, these scores don't have a lot of meaning unless we are able to look at the trends or compare them. So the scoring system is from 0 to 5, And a 0 means that there's no indication of a perceived negative pressure, whereas a score of 2, or I'm sorry, a score of 2 or more, the higher the score, the less balanced or peaceful and less secure that population feels. So let us kind of give you some examples of this scoring. So first, let's look at the United States. And the scores you can see, I have here the data that I pulled starting from 2011 and moving through our most recent score indicator for the United States, which is in 2017. So the scores you can see appear closer to closer to 0 than to 5, which is what we may expect from a more stable and developed economy. So the closer you are to 0, the more balanced and peaceful and secure that population tends to feel. And you can see over the period from 2011 to 2017, there has been a trend upwards. Probably not a surprise for us, but again, it's food for thought. The next example I have here is for Canada. Canada has very similar NSI scores, but the trend seems to be from 2011 to 2017 going towards a lower score. And the last example I have here is the United Kingdom, which appears to trend to a higher score from 2011 to 2017, but there appears to be some more fluctuation. So how do these scores compare to other countries? Germany, who I would say is, we would consider similar, has also a very similar NSI score for 2017 of 1.60. On the other hand, Poland is one of the countries that have come up with what I saw as a higher end score. It typically has stayed over 2.0, hovering around 2.2, and their current NSI score for 2017 is 2.18. The 2017 NSI score for Poland of 2.18, it may be helpful to compare to other countries or against its own score over the past decade. But ultimately, we think about what do we do with this type of data? The NSI scores are designed to really just help us to dialogue about possible causes and consequences of stress at a high level view. Hopefully, they give more supportive information to leadership to make decisions. And not only do they reflect the stress that countries may feel in the workplace setting, but also it can reflect general attitude towards work and individualism. But before I finish up, I just want to kind of address, the national stress indicators and can we use it in the workplace for the organization? Yes, the answer is yes. The NSI scores can be calculated for an organization. However, for it to have any significance and be interpretable, it would need to be compared to a benchmark. And for those of us in the United States, as an organization, our benchmark would be the United States NSI score. In addition, all persons of that organization would need to be included in the data for that score to accurately reflect the organization. So again, this is a very high level overview of what this national stress indicator does. And if you want to learn more about it, you can contact us. We actually pulled all of this information from our extended DISC 2017 validation study. And our study comes out every 2 to 2.5 to 3 years. And what it's designed to do is it's designed to validate our tool. So we give the information to the University of Oulu, where they take our data and they essentially validate to say our extended DISC tool measures what it says it should. And from that data, we can extrapolate additional information that can be very useful to people. So not only does this National Stress Indicator provide scoring for countries as a whole, but it actually gets pared down to looking at the male population versus the female population, as well as looking at the population based on their DIS style, D-I-S-N-C. So it's very interesting, and if you guys would like to learn more, just let us know, and we will be able to give you access to the validation study. So thank you for joining us today. Our next webinar is on kind of a continuation of the theme of stress. Does the DIS style play a role in employee stress levels? And I'll answer it now. Yes, it does. So please join us April 3rd at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time for our brief 15-minute webinar on this topic. Thank you for joining us today. Bye.